Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Drafted Pages podcast. Running a solo one today. Going to be more of a monologue rant on a few things. Don't have anything too big to talk about, but there's been a lot of stuff going on in the world that has caught my attention. Some things I've gone down the rabbit hole on. A lot of this is like stuff related to the government, specifically with the U.S. So if you're not into that, this might not be the episode for you, but was hoping to cover some more sports stuff, some more controversial sports stuff, but the way some of the NFL games played out, they didn't really feed the conspiracy narrative, although I am going to touch a little bit on that at the end. So let's just dive into it. The first biggest thing that has been going on that's like been occupying a lot of my mind is the border crisis here in Texas, and it's pretty prevalent to me living in Texas and everything that's going on. If you're not familiar with the situation, I'll try and recap it for you in very quick and simple terms. So basically, the border crisis in Texas has gone to crap over the past 3 years under the Biden administration. Everything Trump tried to do to try and secure it, that the new administration kind of threw to the side and undid a lot of that. Whether you like either one of those candidates, is regardless of the fact that now our country is less safe than it was years ago. And there has been, I think there was reported 6 million illegal immigrants come into the country over the past 3 years, which is more than some states' entire populations, which is crazy to think about. And it's not that people coming to our country is wrong. There's nothing wrong about that. It's illegal people. It's people coming in who aren't following the rules and regulations of that country. And if you do that in any other country, especially ones that are much more strict, such as China or Russia or even some European countries, you're going to be put in jail. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And sorry, hit the camera there. It's just a problem in the U.S. It's a huge issue. And so the crisis that's going on is that the Texas government has been trying to secure it, and there was a report or something Biden put out that they can't secure it the way they were, basically, and that he sent the federal troops down to the border to kind of remove some of the barbed wire and things like that to prevent people from crossing the border in places that it's pretty easy to. And Governor Abbott, the governor of Texas, basically wrote a memo saying what Biden issued is unconstitutional, that we have the right to protect our states, protect our land, protect the people that live here, and sent down the Texas military, which Texas has its own military, and it's pretty big. I think it's bigger than some countries' militaries. I wish I wrote down more details on this, but if you're interested, go research this. You'll get tons of information. I'm just giving you a quick synopsis. But yeah, so he sent the Texas military down to defend the border and defend it from the federal troops trying to take away the stuff that's preventing people from crossing over. So it's created this huge standoff. There hasn't been much going on over the past week, as this really picked up steam a week ago. But yeah, it's a huge deal. And there was this viral video of this leader of this terrorist organization basically coming across the border and being you don't know who I am. You don't know who I am, but you're going to find out soon. And the internet did its thing and found out that this guy, I forget his name, but is a big leader of a terrorist organization. And that, if he's here, if he just crossed the border, how many people that work for him and work for this unit are probably already here in our country, which is a major concern, right, with terrorism. So, I mean, it's just really frustrating, the fact that we have to go through this in our own country. We could have a whole talk, and I probably will do it one day, get a bunch of research down. But if you're awake, you know how much the government is just lying and continuing to lie. And it's becoming so frustrating to me and to people that I speak to about this. We're just so fed up, but we just don't know how to fight it and what to do, because we can say all we want, we can make podcasts, we can try and get viral on social media for people to see, but at the end of the day, I feel we're still helpless. Our hands are still tied because it's such a corrupt system, and the people that are trying to do good, the people that are trying to care about this country and these citizens and aren't able to be bought out by these huge corporations, like they always get muffled. They always get pushed aside because money talks at the end of the day, and the big corporations put in the power who are going to do what they want to do. And it's just a corrupt system, and it sucks, and it's just tearing this country apart. And I'm tired of it. I'm over it. I'm tired of it. And so with this border crisis, I saw that, I believe it's in Chicago, which is a whole nother thing. In the Chicago airport, they're housing like hundreds of thousands of these illegal immigrants in the Chicago airport. And they've even shut places down. They've put up tarps. If you've seen any of the videos where they're just kind of like blocked off whole areas and like these black sheets so you can't really see, but it's really obvious that there's illegal like immigrants over there. And like we do so much more in this country for other countries and for people who don't have a right to be here than we do for the people who are citizens, and like all the homeless people and all of our veterans and people who've given their lives and years to serve this country, and first responders. Like, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous the way we treat people who have earned the right to be treated well by sacrifice for this country and for these people, and then the way we treat other countries and other people. It's so corrupt and it's so annoying. But back to the Chicago stuff. So that's happening. And there was a government official basically giving a speech wanting affluent people in that area to host illegal immigrants at their houses because there's too many of them. They can't like keep them at the airport anymore. And it's just like, really? Like, you're going to ask, like, of course, like the rich people to do it. And I guarantee you, like, he isn't going to be the first one to like sign up to host people, illegal immigrants at his house. Like, it's just so annoying. It's so frustrating. And, you know, as a Christian, like, we're called to help people. And I never want to like turn people away, but there is like a proper way to do it. And again, like I said, there's so many people in this country who are hurting and who need help, who have almost like earned it in a way. And then there's the people who are just trying to come here illegally. And maybe they're trying to do it for the betterment of their family. They're trying to leave a hard situation. But it doesn't excuse the fact of them coming somewhere illegally and making a bad problem worse for themselves. So that's kind of it on the bordering crisis and everything that's going on. Just something that's really been on my mind as a Texas citizen. So the other thing I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole on with a lot more of this conspiracy theory stuff is kind of the timelines. So I've been seeing a lot of stuff about how our timeline, like what we're on, almost like a Marvel movie, it like got jumbled with a different timeline, which, I mean, as a believer, this is like crazy to like talk about or think about, but I mean, I'm a curious guy and I always like to ask questions and try and like figure things out. And so some of it's made sense. And to put this in a context, right, if you think about Fruit of the Loom and that whole thing that's been going down over the past like year about how Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia in its logo and basically couldn't find any evidence of it. And then this one like researcher basically went down this huge rabbit hole, found evidence of it, found out that they removed it around the same time that Fruit of the Loom poisoned like an entire town with their products. And they removed it as part of like a corporate rebrand and hid it and basically gaslighted, you know, the population into thinking that it never was there. And it just made me think, like, it's probably not the first time or the last time that we've been gaslighted as a society into thinking something's true when it's not. And if you tell the lies enough, you know, people don't even know what the truth is anymore. And, you know, lying becomes the new truth. And it's just a cycle, repetitive, vicious cycle until nature finally like wins, because the truth will always win and it'll always succeed. It just takes time. And yeah, so I've been thinking about like the timelines and how people are saying they're messed up, and you look back hundreds of years ago at like the architecture, specifically things like the pyramids, and how people were able to build that back then and make such like grand things, the ancient wonders of the world. And we can't even, you know, make simple things today. It just makes you wonder if there's like a lost generation, a lost timeline, a lost society that was like super advanced, that had way better tech than we have now, and we're just stuck in this progressive thing. And then that set me down this whole other rabbit hole of this thing called orphan trains, which I have a little bit more research on this. But this was like a movement in the U.S. Where it was basically a supervised welfare program where they sent children from eastern parts of the U.S. over to the Midwest to try and populate those areas. And there was like hundreds of thousands of kids. It's not just like a couple hundred. So it's pretty significant. And there was this huge rabbit hole on this about the timelines and about how they basically took entire generation of kids, put them in a city, and basically could form a whole new truth for them because they didn't know anything else. Like, they're young, they're kids, they don't know what's going on, they're growing up in a brand new area, and they could completely change their reality of life. And then as the older generations die off that knew the quote unquote truth, this new truth becomes the reality. And it just makes you think. It's like, okay, is this just a dumb conspiracy theory, or is this something that can like actually happen if you think about it? And tying it back to like faith a little bit, I was rewatching some of the Passion sermons, and Pastor JP talked about how we get so caught up with doing something for ourselves here on earth when it's really about God. But the one point he made to this is, can you remember like what your great great grandfather did, or even what his name is? And I can't think of it. And it's just to prove the point that you're not going to be remembered. And he's like, if you do the math, 50 years ago he was alive, which is crazy when you think about that. And it's true. Like, if through the generations people die, like there could be a whole new truth and a whole new set of lies that like we're conditioned to believe, and history is lost, and it just confuses things. So it makes me wonder, like, how much of our history, of human history, thankful for the Bible because we know that is absolutely true, and there's so much evidence of that, which is awesome. But other things like the pyramids and the Roman Empire, and even just like the 18 and 1900s, like throughout the U.S., it's like, how much of that do we really know to be true? How much? History is written by the victor, and I feel like there's just could be so much that we've been told throughout our lives and has been written down that isn't the actual reality. It's just somebody who was rich, or a group of people who are rich, who had the idea to condition people to think a certain way, to believe a certain thing, into creating a society that thinks, XYZ happened when it really didn't. And it all comes down to money and these big corporations and corruption. And it's annoying. So that's kind of the majority of this podcast, is kind of that rant. A couple other things I wrote down here is, apparently can't eat leftover rice anymore. Been seeing videos all about this, about how when you make rice, you have to eat it within like 24 hours because it grows this like invisible mold, because it's made with so much water. It grows like this invisible mold on it that you can't even like kill off in a microwave. And I've been even eating like leftover rice for years now, and have been pretty healthy, knock on wood. So I don't know if this is just a new thing, like a superstitious thing, again, like gaslighting in us thinking we can't eat leftover rice anymore, or if it's actually real. But yeah, I don't know. I just found that interesting. Also, ketchup is bad. If you know me, you know how much I love ketchup, specifically Heinz. And there was this viral picture that went out about like the mixers that make the ketchup. Apparently they get like this gross mold. I think this was something else too, not just ketchup, but they get like this gross mold on it within like 4 days, and they only clean them once every like 20 days. I think it was mac and cheese. It was some Kraft mac and cheese maybe for this, same brand. But yeah, so apparently can't eat ketchup anymore, which sucks. So kind of ties into the whole other thing about how the government, the world, we're constantly stripping the nutritional value out of our food, out of our diets, even like vegetables and fruits and meats. You go to the store, covered with preservatives and hormones and steroids, and it's all to disrupt like our gut and our health and how we should be eating and living and thriving in that way. And it's all to make us more sick, so we're more dependent on drugs and medicines, which cause addictions, which cause more problems, and it's just a vicious cycle that continues. And again, ties back to corruption and greed and systematic problems. And it's just annoying because I'm over it, I'm tired, and I wish I didn't have the internet because I feel like I can't eat anything, I feel like I can't drink water, I feel like I can't breathe air, I feel like I can't do anything without the fear of like what I'm eating, consuming, doing is bad and unhealthy. And this episode is sounding really pessimistic, and I'm a really optimistic person. So I want to like try and change the tone of this as I kind of close things out and just encourage us as a society, as people, to just try and be asking questions about things, be a little bit more curious. I think it's always good to ask questions, even if you think you know the answer, even if you think it's obvious, something you believe, it's good. Challenge yourself, challenge other people around you. Work out. You don't have to work out crazy like me. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete. Like, keep your body healthy, keep it moving, especially as you get older. It's just harder and harder and harder, and especially with the nutrition and the stuff in our food, it's harder to get healthy. So start young and continue it and just be consistent with it. It's the biggest thing with anything. It's just consistency and discipline. And you want to live to see your kids' grow up and do cool things. So don't wait till it's too late to take care of your health, prioritize it. And it goes with mental stuff too. Cherish like the little things, spend your money, go on vacations, don't worry about saving every penny. Tomorrow's never promised. And I think it's really important that we remember that. And just finally, my last point here, tying it back to the JP sermon from Passion, which I believe is available. You can go watch it if you haven't. It's great. Talks a lot about how it's loving to tell people the truth, that God is the only way. And me and my one buddy in my Bible study group, shout out Corbin, we watched it this past week, and he asked a good question. He was like, how do I go about telling people I know that don't believe in God or are unbelievers or unsure or things like that? Like, how do you go about that conversation? How do you not convince them, but come across in a genuine way that like what you're saying is true? Because of course they're going to believe that their religion is true and things like that. And it's a great question. I don't know if I have the perfect answer for it, but I told them, with the Bible, there's so much that has been proven true with it. There's so much historical information that we have that even atheists like have acknowledged that Jesus did exist, like he was real. And I think other religions can't really point to that. They don't really have anything along those lines. And the biggest thing that JP points out in his sermon is that all religions are exclusive, including Christianity, but it's the most inclusive. There's nothing you have to do to earn, a spot in heaven. There's nothing you can do to earn that spot in heaven. It's grace. It's God's grace by sending Jesus to absorb all of the fault of humanity on the cross, and through his death and resurrection that we have that opportunity to be with heaven and God. So all you have to do is accept God as your Savior, accept Jesus as your Savior, and welcome him into your heart. And then by doing so, like, his Spirit will be alive in you, continue to change you and evolve you and help you be convicted about living out a worldly life. And as you begin to deepen that relationship with God, you'll be more convicted to turn away from things and people and stuff like that aren't healthy in a Christian life. So I think it's just important that we encourage people and don't, in the same way that we don't take our lives for granted. Like the way JP said it, like, well, we're walking down hallways with people who are going to hell. Like, we have best friends that we call best friends. We have family that we say we love and we care for, but we're literally letting them walk into hell. We're just like, hey, it's like, I don't want to force religion on them. I don't want to be the person who comes across as this big Christian goober. Like, I don't want to be judged. And at the end of the day, all that's saying is it's I, and it's never about us. It's about God, and it's about them. And my friend Corbin put it in a good way too. He was like, if you were here and Jesus came back and you were right next to your best friend or maybe a family member, and like they see Jesus and they're like, oh my goodness, like how why didn't you tell me about this? Like why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you like bring me into this? Because now I'm going to hell and you're going to heaven. And like that would break my heart, right? If you thought about like your best friend or family member not coming with you on that day, and when you could have done more. And there's so many people out there that just don't have access to the gospel, haven't ever heard of it. There's literally billions. I think 3 billion is what my church always says. And just think about how many people that are in your circle, in your neighborhood, in your workplace, who don't believe and don't know. So take that as a mission for this week, is to, as the positivity, as the Great Commission, is to just spread the gospel. So maybe just pray for one person by name this week who struggles with faith or maybe doesn't believe at all. Just pray for them every single night, one person for a week, just that, God will work, soften their heart, use you as a encourager, as a light to show them what it's like to live out a Christian life. And, say hi to one random person and ask if you can pray for them, whether it's your server, whether it's someone at a gas station, whoever, just one person, because that's how ripple effects start and that's how the gospel grows. So hope you enjoyed this little rant about stuff that's been bothering me, stuff that's going on in the world. Hopefully we can start to make it a better place. I'll probably have another episode just with me next week. Be kind of a special one. Might be a little mushy. Just throwing it out there. But yeah, hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk next time. Also, completely forgot to mention that my favorite song from Passion came out today. Lord Will Provide. Go check it out on Spotify. I'll leave a link in the description. It's a banger.